Welcome back. Today's guest is Anju Gomes. Anju is a senior leader with 30 plus years in the global events industry with deep expertise across the Middle East and India. She drives regional strategy, governance, and high impact event program. She shapes how the industry connects and grows. She leads education, training, and content initiatives focused on capacity building, supporting the region's continued development. Anju's played key operational roles in landmark events such as the IMF World Bank Meetings 2003, the UITP World Congress 2011, demonstrating the economic and infrastructure impact of business events in Dubai. Representing ICCA, she continues to advance destination development and strengthen the region's global positioning. Welcome, Anju. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, firstly, Michael. It's a privilege to be here, and I'm honored to be your guest. Um, like you said, it's 30 years of my experience, not just in the industry, but in the region. And I must say that when I started my journey, it was not all about what are you going to achieve post the event. It was just always working for the success of the event. But today, the meaning of event is changed, and it's more of a legacy that you are going to create. What is going to happen after event? It's more on the ROI today or ROE today, rather than have a grand image building event and branding all the activities through the event. So today we are more thinking on what is going to be the impact of the event that is planned, and it's not just the impact to the organizer or in general to all the delegates, but the delegates are further divided into categories, whether it is government authorities or the Gen Zs or the CEO level, C-suite attendees. Each attendee is looking for an experience. Is looking for what am I going to get more than networking. Earlier, it was just networking, meeting people, because I don't think we had so much of Zoom calls, Teams calls. Uh, I may feel a little bit old, but when I entered the industry, we didn't have a mobile, we didn't have emails. Uh, we were looking forward for these events to meet people. That was the objective. But today, you are satisfied with all these other reasons for meeting. Uh, you just want to create an end goal for your discussions, because you've already met this person 10 times and now you want to close whatever the conversation you've had. And now the meetings are that positioning themselves as like, okay, you can come and sign agreements, you can sign MOUs, you can launch your collaborations. And I think it's more and more created or curated by the organizations that, okay, if you're participating in an event, it's not just to meet people for the first time. It's to close the conversation that you've been having over a period of time. And that's why planning is also important. If you plan an event 1 year later or 6 months later, then they start building on, the deliverables already, like any trade show or any event that you see, even for the policymakers or even for the government authorities. What is the impact that the event is going to create post investing these huge funds to do the event? So I think more and more we are going towards legacy and impact and meaningful event, and it's not just gathering people in one roof and just giving them the opportunity to listen, because nowadays there are so many educational podcast or reels or trainings that are happening online. So you
Yeah.
really don't need to go back to this, old model or the traditional way of doing the events.
Yeah, and I think that when I said that, I should probably correct myself because there's never a strict demarcation between networking events and these more important, sort of, I guess, oftentimes public sector or government-led events where they're talking about policy prescription and economics and things like this, because there is networking at every event. But
Yes.
also when you have something that may be considered from some optics a higher pedigree event, when it's government involvement and more VIP involvement, that's where the partnerships happen at a higher level, and that's
Exactly.
where and that is networking, and that is card sharing and card
Exactly.
swapping
Yeah.
and getting to know one another, and because that's where the ideas spark, you know? And it's funny that you mentioned, obviously, us being in the business for a while and we often talk about the old days and how we didn't have it as well as the other ones had it. When I was working in an office in 2000 in Montreal, and we had an old CRT monitor, yellowed monitor. We had to print out one of those accordion papers with leads on it when I was running a sales team for sponsorship, and it was just this like these, and you had to ring up everybody, and you had to make 100 calls.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy as it is today.
Yeah.
Not that it's easy for anyone, but it's just the
I think
advent
the
of computers.
outcome used to be really great
Yeah,
of those efforts that we did back in those days.
yeah,
Today, you do mass mailing. You don't even know how many will really react. They open the
yeah,
mail, but do you have the action?
yeah,
So, when you are talking to a person, you can get a yes or a no.
yeah,
But when
yeah,
you
yeah.
send an email, you can't get a yes or a
No,
no. It's always a maybe.
and it's yeah, exactly. This the what I learned when I was being sort of trained back in I guess 2000 when I was being trained by one of the sales directors when I started my foray into events in sales at that time was a maybe is worse than a no. It's the worst
Exactly.
thing you get is a maybe because a maybe is just gray area. It's vague. It goes nowhere. It goes on and on and on. But back then, because I was working in Montreal and the events that we were running were all for the American market, all the conferences we had were in California and Michigan and Florida and all of that. So that was a little bit different because it was a different part of the world. Here, you've done a lot internationally, you've done a lot regionally. So between the two, and of course with the program, when you're building a program, what is the sort of striking difference between the more regional, I guess, positioning or messaging through a program of what you're trying to do compared to something that's more international for ICCA?
Normally, whenever you are planning any event, it starts from at a city level, goes to a country level, it goes to the regional level, and then of course international. So everybody who is in this industry, they want to grow their business. At the end of the day, it's all about business.
Yeah.
And ICA's role has always been to bring international knowledge. And everybody is more keen to know international knowledge at home, right? On home ground, because you have more people who can attend and not travel for that international knowledge. So, mainly our focus has always been first because it's the host country or city
Mm.
that wants to achieve their own objective.
Yeah.
So, their objective is primary. Then, of course, it's you want the regional participation. So, the regional objectives are also highlighted. And then, of course, the international objectives because you are a global industry. So it's always a give and take as far as educational events are concerned. And ICA is always doing association, promoting association meetings, which is considered to be like a university or an education hub that
Yeah.
everybody looks after, that what can I gain out of it. So our objective is always a mix of all these elements to ensure that all the delegates are receiving what they need. So we try to bring international speakers, mix it up with the local speakers. So it's a case study, international benchmarking, and what the region is doing, what the destination is doing. And at the end of the day, we want to ensure that maximum people get the benefit of the event. So when the event is at home, an organization would bring more than two delegates. Like they will say, okay, I want my whole team to to be part of this. They need to have the exposure, they need to have experience. But sometimes because of the budget, you cannot take them with you to international events to listen to the international speakers. So when we get the international speakers, there is, more people getting the education. And then even in the region, if somebody's coming from Saudi Arabia to UAE, they'll say, "Oh, it's a short distance. I
Yeah.
can bring a larger team.
Yeah.
More people can get educated." So similarly, we try to bring international and regional together in a mix where maximum people from the organization is hearing the international experience, trying to benchmark or learn out of it and you know apply it in their existing jobs. And also education as like a training or as a workshop, it will help, and it brings in an international flavor into the local flavor. And the world is also always planning to grow, right? So the international audience are also very much interested in local events,
Right.
so that they can meet more people, they can experience firsthand about what's really the culture, the destination value. A very classic example I have is the Middle East Summit that ICA organizes, or a regional summit. We always have a city based event, and then we have a regional event, and then of course we have ICA Congress, which happens annually in different parts of the world. So I've noticed that I have so much of interest and from the regional people to have this Middle East Summit, but to bring international speakers, to
Yeah.
bring international practices, to ensure how are we doing against that. So it's very important to amalgamate all of them,
Yeah.
and then only the product is really essential, or it becomes important for other people to attend. So
I think that, um, you know, like what you said about having that sort of merge between international and regional, and of course that exchange is so important. I think that's why the UAE is such an important hub for events, for many reasons, but I think mostly because it really sits on that sort of motto of global context, local relevance.
yes.
I mean, nobody does that better than here. If you're in Istanbul, you're in Istanbul. You're at a Turkish conference, you're at an Istanbul conference. If you're in Tokyo, it's Tokyo, Tokyo, Tokyo. The UAE has a way of making things feel really international while never forgetting where you are,
Yeah.
and really projecting and amplifying that. So, but you talk about education, you talk about capacity building, and how that's so important to ICA. And I think throughout your career, that's been incorporated in a lot of what you do. What do you think, in the nicest way possible, what do you think that young event professionals could be missing, or could work on, or could put more focus on in today's events from an event perspective, not just from an ICA perspective, not from any particular event agency or even regional, international, but event professionals today? How do you feel they could sort of improve their, I guess, mindset? I don't know how else to say it.
I mean, this is a great question, and it's very, how do I say? It makes me feel um, that today the events industry has really grown to an extent where the the individual roles are divided into different career perspective. We always have this discussion about the Gen Zs joining our industry. Our industry is really having a lot of uh, people running it, still from having 20, 30, 40 years of experiences. And what we have noticed is that the new generation, they're very attracted to the industry, but there is a gap. It's a good and a bad thing, because we have event management colleges, we have hospitality colleges which are covering events topics. We have vocational courses now, which is telling you how to be an event professional. But unfortunately, the on ground experience is what is lacking. So they are not able to evaluate the future of this industry.
Right.
So whatever we may say, we are from my era I may call it, they are all so passionate about this industry. And if you don't have a passion, you will not thrive in this industry. And that's what is missing.
Is it more in the planning and development side that could be more of a focus, or
I
is it
think,
on the on-site quick problem solving? We all know the 2 o'clock phone call, 2 o'clock in the morning,
yeah.
because a rigging point is not working. There's a lot of this, change the program, we need to remove this or get a new speaker, someone dropped out. There's so many different things. Do you think that the young event professionals of today are now, you know, as strong within that problem solving capacity?
They are picking it up quickly, but there is a lot more balance in their lifestyle as a professional and a social lifestyle. So they really want to define and keep it separate.
Yeah.
eh, in the past, we mixed it up a lot. So your colleagues became your friends,
Mhm.
and then you're always talking work and you're always doing work. But it's not the case today. And I think there is a big role for the policymakers or the education industry to play so that they are trained in the right. When you call it business
Yeah.
events is so many activities. They includes exhibition, it includes incentives, it includes tourism, as well as it includes association meetings or other meetings industry. But it's so different from each other that
Yeah.
somebody who would like to deliver an event, something like Jitex,
Right.
and suddenly that's an event, it's an events industry, right? If you are working in a Jitex exhibition, and at the same time, if you put them in, say, an association
Right.
meetings, it's so different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like a north and a south pole.
Yeah.
So somebody who comes from that industry and it's sitting here, they will not enjoy because they loved that
Yeah.
exposure and running around.
But it's important to go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
good to understand the
that
commercial heavy, like
correct.
Jitex is a beast, Gulf Food's a beast, these
Yeah.
Adipec is a beast. These are things you come into. They're
You're
certainly by
playing
no
a
means
role.
self-driven, but they've been around for a long time,
Yes.
and they need a big team
Yeah.
where no mistakes can happen.
Yeah.
But then you've get these small association events, these
Yeah.
institutional events, these
Yeah.
small, whether it's a workshop, roundtable,
Yeah.
whether it's a trade mission,
Yeah.
then there's something more intimate about that. There's something
Correct.
more, you're dealing face to face,
It's like
and
impact, right?
it's
So
less
it's
deadlines
yeah.
and more sort of understanding,
The cause of one era in Jitex or
Yeah.
in a small meeting, it's the same. The
Yeah.
repercussions are the same.
Right.
So the seriousness or the commitment is the same,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not. What you call it. It doesn't release certain amount of toxins in you when you are in 50,000 event versus 1,000 event.
Yeah.
So, that's the kind of adrenaline that the new generation misses in these different activities. And I think I go back to every time saying that if they don't understand the purpose,
Yeah.
they will never be able to deliver wholeheartedly. And association meetings are more purpose driven.
Yeah.
Government meetings are more purpose driven. There is a purpose for large exhibitions as well, but
Yeah.
it's more for the traders or for the ultimate buyers. So it's like a B2B event.
Sometimes the large events are, forgive me for saying, because it's not always like this, but it's like a spray and pray where you have a large event where deals can take place quite quickly.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, these are, they're having conversations. We'll get back to you. It could be months and months and months. But then you these small, more intimate gatherings that are purpose driven, that they have a focus where they're coming together and they
Exactly.
and they shake hands. And then things start to move quite quickly because they're sort of aligned in the idea and the sort of the spirit of what they're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
You're right that it really needs to be, has to be more of a focus on not of a focus, but I mean, the event professional should always understand what happens with other events, different dynamics,
Yeah.
different platforms, different sizes, and it's important for young people to be involved in all of that where it's possible, where they can. But I wrote an article quite some time ago on LinkedIn about the importance of sort of interoperability within events in terms of having the salesperson sit with the operations people for a short period of time, whether it's in the summer, maybe during Ramadan, maybe a slower time when there's events that are not pressing at that moment. and marketing people to sit with the salespeople and these people, everybody to sort of understand what goes on within each department because sometimes there is that wall, there's that like that, that demarcation between the groups. And they don't really get an understanding. I think if you have sort of a mindfulness of another team and what they're going through and what their deadlines and timelines look like, then it might help you to sort of do your job in a different way that
Yeah.
might be able to hold hands with
Yeah.
everybody else, could shorten the timeline. At the very least, it does provide some sort of, I guess, professional
Definitely.
empathy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's important that every department, every team member understands what you are trying to achieve. Because if you are looking at the definition of HR or marketing, or then they are so rigid that you don't get the flexibility to deliver the event in the capacity that you want to.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, that's why we have launched our training program for the entire organization, and we encourage marketing and HR, everybody to participate in this training so that they understand the purpose and the importance of these events, so that they are not considered as just like, a gathering. It's
Yeah.
no more just a gathering.
So another beast, the ICCA Congress is, I mean, this is a very large scale event that you've got your hands full with this, obviously in the preparation, probably starting a year in advance, little by little. And then, of course, having it in different countries and different cities. When you're creating the program or even creating a new concept, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Obviously, things evolve in the world, different ideas evolve within the rules and regulations for conferences, or different countries start setting up new initiatives or subsidies or something for, you always have to be aware of what's happening. And of course, how it affects potentially like maybe tourism in different countries. So how does your sort of developmental process in I mean, in your mind and your team's mind, how does it sort of the mechanics come together to create the right program or create a new event for ICA?
So, I mentioned to you that ICA is an educational hub.
Yeah.
So, education was always our primary motive, but it's shifting. It's shifting from trying to balance event design, education, collaboration, business deals, business ROI. So it's all of it now that they want. They don't want just to come for education. They
Yeah.
want to see what business am I going to bring home, because when I'm going for approvals of these events to attend or to sponsor or to participate or to partner with, the management is definitely going to ask you, what is it going to bring back home? So it's again going back and back and back and forth to the impact of that event to your home ground, even if it is somewhere. This year we are having it in Panama, and the region will say, "Ah, Panama is like 36 hours of drive from, ride for me, or 27 hours minimum to come that far. What am I going to bring back home?" So the first thing that comes to our mind is always, how are we going to generate business opportunities for those members who are going to travel that far and invest a week's time in that event? That's the first. Then, of course, it's the event design, because how are you going to ensure that once you have all those people in that place, that each of them meet each of them, right? So we don't want to have a packed parallel sessions of 10 sessions happening, and people are just running from one room to the other, and they're not able to talk, but they're just listening.
Yeah.
And then you have a very small window of like 20 minutes of coffee break, and then you barely go and stand in the queue for the coffee, and the break is over, so you don't get the opportunity. So now it's a lot of effort to put white space in the event so that people are able to collaborate. We're making a conscious effort to ensure what are the deals getting signed off, which members are having a real conversation of future events, because we do bring associations. 100 plus associations are participating in every
Yeah.
event, which is like 100 events. Now each association will carry two events in
Wow.
their own association, there are multiple series of events that they have. It's of course at the regional level, international level. So you have 100 divided by 2. That's like 200 leads just
Yeah.
from the associations. Then you have meeting management members who are core PCOs of the global world, and they are outbound DMCs. So those are also business for you. So how are you going to meet them, and how are you going to ensure that there is a constructive conversation to bring a fam trip to your destinations? Or what's the kind of business that this destination or the region is delivering for my region?
Yeah.
So if it is in Latin America, how many people from Latin America is coming to Middle East as a
Yeah.
year? So that's my benchmark to say, oh, there is 2.5 million people coming from there. So I want to ensure that I'm ready to give them a product
Yeah.
to attract them to my destination. So that's the kind of planning that we are trying to do, of where they can really do this real conversation. At the same time, we have a C-suite level who are not really doing this one-on-one meeting with everybody, but they really want to share experience with the same, capacity.
Yeah.
So we have like a closed door workshop for them, which is like less than 100 people
Yeah.
out of the 1,500 or 1,800 people that come to for event.
Wow.
We gather those 100 people in one room, and then we work out like a workshop session. It's not a panel discussion. It's not just telling people what you want or what you have achieved, but it's about how we can work together. So those are another kind of activities that we do. We also have a very fun activity
Mm.
where we have like a challenge night where we challenge each region to compete with each other.
Yeah.
We always compete with business, but
Yeah.
we also help them to become a child,
Yeah.
because every human has a child in
Yeah.
them. So
It's a bit of
it's a
levity.
fun time,
Yeah.
and they play, and they are just interacting with each other at the child level competitiveness, where
Yeah.
you want to play and you want to win the game. So it builds the bond, which is a different bond. And so these are all the different
Probably
activities.
breaks a bit of tension as well,
Yeah.
makes people feel a little more
And
decompressed.
also, we give importance to the local host who is investing so much of time, and the whole city, and always the impact and legacy is also on top. We
Yeah.
always involve the right organizations to ensure that there is less food, there's no food waste, there is sustainable transport utilized,
Yeah.
there is, we ensure that there is a well-being of the delegates. So we have all these elements built into the Congress. So it's targeting towards everybody's interest.
Yeah.
So it's not just business, it's not just well-being, it's a lot of elements put together that
Yeah.
makes a successful event.
Yeah.
And people look forward to attend our events because they have a mix of everything else. And it's
Yeah.
also to take back the best practices, because ICA is always trying to create a benchmark event that people would like to replicate. And we've been very successful in the past, 10 years, 20 years, that we are delivering the event where they say, oh, this was good in ICA event. We should apply this for our event, or we should tell this to our organizers, or, our PCOs, or meeting management people, so that they can apply this or take this experience back to their clients to say, oh, this is what ICA did, and you should
Yeah.
do this for your event, and it will bring such great value.
It's huge, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the Congress. I mean, not to put aside all of the other events that take place during the year, but the Congress itself is so fragmented into so many different incredible side events and sort of peripheral or events. It's amazing that the, the team must be going full on for a very long time to get this right. And
Yes.
it's always successful. I mean, the reviews I hear, and I when I do go on LinkedIn and I see all of the comments made, so it's really, really incredible that you guys accomplish something like this constantly and consistently year on year. But I don't have you for much longer, and I want to ask you just a couple of follow-up questions. Not follow-up questions, but sort of as an aside type questions that I mean, that's probably going to catch you off guard. One is, can you think of the proudest moment you had in the last 30 years? What have you accomplished in your career that you feel was like a real one of probably many sort of bright moments that you reflect on that you would love to replicate regularly?
I can go on with
I
that
know, I'm
one
sure.
question
Yeah.
for 1 hour.
Yeah.
I feel very, very, very privileged to be part of the economy impact that events that I was part of created for this city.
Yeah.
Um, it makes me it makes me feel so proud that I get goosebumps every time I talk about it.
Yeah.
So back then, when I came to Dubai in 1995, there was no focus of where I'm going to go and work.
Yeah.
So I always say the career selected me. So event management, when I entered into it, it selected me, and I didn't select it, but I just went on with it. And
Yeah.
that time we didn't have a lot happening in Dubai. Of course, we didn't have the World Trade Center. We didn't have
Yeah.
all this infrastructure that we have today. Population, it was not. It was probably 1/4 of what we have today.
Yeah.
So I have two incidents that really make me proud of where I am and what I have done. One of them was bidding for IMF World Bank event back in 1999 to be part of that group
Mm.
when we didn't even have a convention center. And the requirement of that event is to have at least, 30,000 square meters of place. And we just had hall number 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So it was a time when we were trying to bring Dubai on the map of the convention map, Um, and when we won that bid, the vision of that destination was to bring such events again and again, of course. But His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid was so helpful at that time to ensure that we achieve that vision of bringing large events. And
Yeah.
that's how the establishment of the World Trade Center happened.
Yeah.
And I was part of it from 99 to 2003 because we delivered that event in 2003, and it was one of the best events. Even they acknowledged
Yeah.
it attracted over 18,000 people to Dubai, and it was the first time ever we did such a large event in Dubai. On back of that event, multiple hotels were built because we didn't have as many. And It makes me feel proud every time I walk the concourse because
Yeah.
I was the first to experience that venue.
It's amazing.
And then Post that, of course, it never stopped. That's how I learned about impactful events. Like, what can an event do to a city? It
Yeah.
just turned the whole city,
Yeah.
and
And change everything.
it just changed everything. And then the next was my collaboration with the International Transport Association, which is called as UITP. My involvement with them was just to bring a small event of 200 people. But of course, they have a large events like a congress, and we bid for the large events, and then of course, we lost it initially, and we tried to then go and sit around and said, we have the venue, we have the infrastructure. What is missing? Why are we not bringing this event? And then we realized that we needed a regulatory body. We didn't have. Then we were having to buy municipality. We didn't have RTA as a body. And then, we wanted these large events to come. So the regulatory body was established in 2005. And then we bid again and we bought the smaller event. And then we bid again. And then in 2009, actually, not 2009, 2009, we won the 2011 UITP Congress because one of the criteria was that you should have public transport. And back then we were not so, we didn't have metro or the,
Metro just
yeah.
launched. So, yeah.
And that's how metro came. because we wanted to bring these large transport events. So the RTA was established, and then the metro was formed. So
Yeah.
today, when I see metro line, I said, okay, that was one of the achievement through these events that
Yeah.
we bring, and then the community benefits from it, and it's the impact for the community rather than just for those visitors who come during that event. And it's one of them is to spend in hotels and spend in transport or food when they are there. But once they are gone back, what does the city have from them? And we have the metro line because of that.
Yeah.
So
Well, conferences are platforms
really,
for conversation, and conversations breed
yeah, these
ideas,
are
and
the
ideas
large
foster
legacy
action.
projects that come out of,
Yeah.
and that's my two very, very, strong achievements that I feel
Well,
proud of.
I think the sort of the undertone of both of those really was based on the Dubai, I guess in general the UAE, but the Dubai in this case the Dubai engine that just never stops running when it
Yeah.
comes to events and the support from His Highness and Dubai leadership. My next question, and this is the last question I have, um, completely honest, is what do you what would you like to see change in the events industry? Could be a regulatory or a policy thing. What would you like to see change for the events industry from a regional perspective, even from a UAE perspective? What would you like to see more of, or an expansion of, or something completely change overnight that would help the events industry? This is a tough one.
It has been my longing wish, actually, not just for UAE, but for the region, to have its own capacity of events professionals, not just have event managers and event coordinators, but event decision makers, head of events. And we still have a lot of international, uh, you know, managers or international professionals who are here. But uh, I think we really need the young generations. So the main thing that what they can do at individual city level is to have event management as a professional course,
Yeah.
and introduced at the school level, not just at the college level, but at the school level.
Yeah.
Because today, students of grade 9 and 10, they're already deciding, or rather even earlier, because they have to select subjects, right? And they don't see event management as a career.
Yeah. We could go on probably for hours, and then we'd end up drinking a lot of coffee. But I want to thank you so much, Anju Gomes, for being with us and for sharing your very long tenured perspective on all the events industries, um, nuances, and the way that you think about how you work and how events work from a regional and from an international perspective. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mackie, for having me today here. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.